Okay, so I'm more of a hands-on person. I'm not very technical, so but I know how to take photos and so someday. But the point of this, so my talk is not so much about using games to teach in English. Of course, a lot of you people think about teaching English, whereas when I do teach, I quite often use a lot of games for teaching English. This is more about the child itself, teaching the child to think in different ways, new concepts, basically, more than English. So the idea of this game is to take games and try and use them, but a lot of games can be quite complicated. You don't have the time, etc., to do them in a class setting. This one's a very easy game. It's basically a 2+, so age 2-year-old. You've got these big wooden pieces and that, so it's quite fun for the kids to touch and that. The basic concept of this game is you're working together, it's a cooperative game, to pick all the fruit before this nasty little fellow here gets to the orchard. That would be a bear, wouldn't it? No? Oh, sorry, it's a crow. So the crow hops along the path and gets to the orchard and eats all the fruit. So the idea, the kids have to basically pick all the fruit, get it to the basket, and save the orchard from the crow. Very easy, very mild concept. You can use it quite easy in classes, of course, teaching about fruit, trees, picking, birds, animals, etc. There's many concepts you can bring in here. But my idea is, you've got this dice here, you roll the dice, 6-sided obviously, and you have 4 colours, a crow, which is the black side of the dice, and then you have a basket, which represents you allowing to pick any tree, so pick fruit from one tree. Now this is where you get into a lot of trouble with kids. When they pick fruit, and they get the basket, they tend to grab the tree that's got the least amount of fruit. They think, oh, we'll clear the tree. When a brighter concept would be to get the fruit that's got the most on the tree, because you got a lot of that to get. Because once you run out of, say, green apples, you got no green apples, you roll a green, it's useless. So I try and get the kids to understand that if they've got a lot of fruit on one tree, take the basket, take from that tree. Not a concept normally children have. So you've got to try and, it doesn't always work, but I like to try and get the children to think in different ways, new concepts, and how to do that can be kind of frustrating. My talk mostly focuses on how to use this game for different levels. Because you take one game for 2+, it can be fun for kids 5, 6 years old. How do you make it a bit more interesting for them and bring in a new concept? Well, these are what I've got these cards here for. I use these cards in many sort of different games. But it's quite easy to bring a worker placement concept into this whole scenario. So the idea is you deal cards to the children. You get 2 cards each, and each turn they have to play a card, and they have to place that worker in that colour. So if you played a yellow, you'd go for the pears. Okay, so they get to pick that fruit. The problem is though, worker placement, you're only allowed 1 worker in each part of the orchard. So the idea is, of course, if they have the same colour, they can't go to that, which means the crow advances. Okay? If they have a black card, say they had 2 black cards, the crow advances. They have to play one of them. So all of a sudden they're starting to have to conceptualise how are they going to work together. Because if someone has yellow and green and another one has yellow and green, they need to sort of communicate. You know, I'll go to yellow, you go to green, etc. like that. I've only got 2 yellow. You've got 1 yellow, 1 green. Please use a green so I can use a yellow. So that way they need to start communicating with each other, working together and formulating a plan how they pick the fruit without the crow getting there. So you're taking a very basic concept game, a dice game, which is very easy with children, and brought in cards and worker placement, which is advancing the game for them. So you don't need to go buying too many different games when you can just take one game, strip it down a bit, and replace it in a way. So now this becomes a worker placement game, a new concept for kids, and advances the game a bit more, where they're not only just cooperating together, but they're having to talk amongst each other and work out, rather than just roll the dice. Now they have to confer with each other. Not a concept kids will normally have. Right, yes, I'll just quickly show you. So, this of course is a game. It's great, actually a really great game for kids and that. I quite enjoy it, and really easy. The next one be this one, sorry. How do we advance this?
You press down.
Down? Okay. What was down? Is that one? There we go. We'll go to this one. I only took a picture of the board game itself, Hiss, okay? So I'm going to open this up in a moment. So this game also is a very easy game. It's owned by Game Right, which is a great game, games for kids. So this one is a very simple concept. It's all color based. So you have a lot of cards. I should have taken a photo of this. Cards which have two colors on them. So basically you're learning not only primary colors, you're learning secondary colors. Kids learn colors, but they don't understand primary and secondary. By this, you're basically showing them how to mix colors, basically. So yellow goes from yellow goes to orange or green. So white goes after green, green goes into blue. So they can learn primary and secondary colors very easily because you're connecting the colors. Okay, so it's a very easy concept for them to bring up, how you go from primary to secondary and back from secondary to primary, which colors you mix to get the secondary colors. This one you basically have heads and tails. So the idea is you're laying out, when you play a card, you match it to another color. Eventually, if you're able to put a head and a tail on it, you get those cards, and those cards are your points. So the idea is you're trying to finish snakes. The kids also like to make really long snakes, so you can just let them play with it and make really long snakes. They get all the colors together, which is also kind of fun. Another idea. So instead of where they just take one card and then they play it where they can, or create a new snake, you can allow them to have two cards. So they draw two cards, they play one, they keep one, and next time they draw one, and they always have two choices to play. So that way it brings in an idea of not only just placing a card down and trying to randomly finish a snake, it allows them to try and take advantage of the situation and play the right card at the right time to get points easier if they can. So you're not only playing the head straight away, you can wait to play the head, you can wait to play the tail and hope that you can get a snake and take it from someone else. So ideally you'd bring in, say, a green head and maybe an orange tail. So you play them at the right time, you can get those points. So it's also trying to get them to be sneaky. So you take a very easy game, you advance it. Okay, so you basically give them some advancement. Another great game also for kids. Okay. I think I've got a lot of time actually, haven't I? Got a lot more time than expected. Okay. Now, this one here. It's cool looking cover. I love this cover. This one is called Wild Serengeti. Now, it's not that complicated game. It's not a game you would use in classes. So it takes too long, there's too many pieces to it. The idea is how do you take this and strip it down. So you're taking an easy game, advancing it to make it more useful for kids, to teach them more. This one you have to strip down. It's too complicated. Okay. So one way you can do this is, maybe we go back here. Okay, so this is the board here. In this case, you have a safari area. You got rock area, some grasslands or prairies, you've got a water area, and you've got forest or bushland. So you're teaching terrain to kids, and the idea is, in this game you have cards, you're basically a videographer, photographer, you're trying to go and catch animals and set scenes. So you've got cards that you have to basically go and basically try and catch the animals in a certain formation. In this case here, you have like an elephant, another elephant, and possibly a hyena. It's a bit blurry, sorry. So in this case, you have to catch these animals adjacent to each other. Okay, so the kids are learning adjacent placements. Okay, diagonal, orthogonal, etc. So you can bring those terms in and get them, try and catch it. So the idea is you're allowed to place an animal on the board. Okay, it's obviously a lot more complicated than this, but I'm not going to go into too much detail. But you basically put animals on the board, you move them around and try and capture them in these set scenes. Okay, so you have giraffes, etc., cheetahs, rhinos, etc., vultures. So you're taking these animals and putting them onto the board. Now, my idea with this is you have a bag of animals in here. Kids love these things. They love little animals, they love pulling them out and playing with them. So you can take away all this and just use the animals. Basically, very basically. So you could basically get the kid just play out and they're trying to just work out what animal is this. They've got to touch it, feel it and think what animal could that be. And before they pull it out they have to say it's a crocodile. Okay? Kids don't visualize quite like we do though. It's a new thing for them. So they use that touch and that's how they are when they're babies. Okay? They use, everything's done by touch. Okay? They start touching things, put it into their mouth. Okay? Because their mouth has got a lot of feeling in that. So you're basically trying to get them to identify pieces, the shape, and they're going to pull out and say what it is before they pull it out. Okay, it's great fun for kids. They love playing with these pieces. It gets their imagination going and it gets their touching going, trying to work out what they're going to be pulling out. Can you guess what I'm going to pull out?
Lion, monkey, zebra.
Close. It's a yellow zebra. Oh, sorry, it's a cheetah. Oh no, it's a lion, sorry. Okay, so that's the idea. They get the great little things you can take from games. You don't want kids also getting into games like this and pulling things apart. So, but you can take things which are quite resilient and you can use them. So it's such an easy thing. You know, 2, 3, 4-year-olds would be playing with these, trying to identify animals. Okay? Then you can bring it up a level, you can bring in the board if you want, and they've got to try and pull out the animals they want. So they're going to have a card. You give them a card, and they've got to try and pull out the animal. So they're searching for the animal, trying to conceptualize which animal it is. They pull it out, and if there's the right animal, then place it on the board. If it's the wrong animal, they can still place it on the board. It might help with the others. So that's basically what you're doing. You're going through and trying to... And a lot of games have different concepts for scoring, etc. In this case, you take the cards which have like a scoring value, not an optional part of the game, just basic for scoring, and they can score the points if they complete it. So that's the idea. So you're basically trying to pull out an elephant for this card here, and you go, oh, look at that, I've got an elephant. Okay. Now, some of the cards will have terrain features on them, like this one here. You have to have in a water scenario. So they place the animal they get, they put it in the water scenario. And that also might be an advantage for other people who have different cards. They might need an animal in that position also. Okay? So you can take it from a competitive thing to a cooperative again. So competitive, where you're trying to score points for yourself, you may be giving advantage to other people. But then you can take it into a cooperative point where they're trying to work together, basically to put animals on the board in the position that they want and position that the others may want. Okay? They might want it here, but you need it here. That's okay. You put it here, their turn, they can move it to here. So you're just trying to come up with different ideas for games that you can use. Because there's a lot of games out there, too many games out there, and how do you use them? Most of them are just too complicated for kids. But I love teaching kids to use games. The kids really enjoy it when they get into it. So you need to take a game, you either need to bring it up to a level, keep raising the level for different kids in ways, or you need to strip it down and more complicated games, strip it down for time, not just for, some kids can play complicated games, but time-wise, you need to strip it down for time. So that's another thing. So you're either bringing it up in level or you're stripping it down to bring the level down. So that's basically what I do with my games. A lot of the games I try to keep to the basic concept of what they have, what they do, but you need to simplify it for time and skill level. So yeah, so that's basically what I do with games. I try to use them in classes whenever possible, but there are times when I'm thinking, this is a great game to teach children, but I just don't have the time. When I do have the time, I try to organize it so that I can bring it to a level where the kids are able to understand it, able to use it in the time that's allotted. Quite often though, I can do it a 40-minute class. My class will run 15 minutes an hour sometimes. It's hard to sometimes keep the kids to the time frame. Or maybe it's more me, hard to keep myself to that time frame. Yeah, so that's basically the whole idea of my talk, is taking games, introducing the kids, showing them how to use them, how to play them, bringing in new ways to think, and in that case, some games are too complicated. They have to be reduced to allow the kids to bring that concept into their repertoire without wasting too much time. Or in the case of the first couple of games I showed, taking the game, raising up the level, because some kids, like when they get to 5, 6 years old, it's too easy to roll in dice, etc. You might want to bring in a new sort of concept for them, teach them a new concept, make it a little bit harder for them. Yeah. Okay. That's pretty much me for the talk, actually. Sorry. So I'm 4 minutes extra time for questions, I guess. Is that okay?
Yeah. The floor is open for questions, so please.
Don't fall down the floor. The hole. Sorry. Sorry.
Yeah, start in the corner there.
I have a two-part question, if that's okay. So the first part is, at what age do children start understanding game concepts? And then the second part of the question is, at what age do you notice that they stop exploring with their mouths and using their hands with game pieces?
Okay, well the thing is, I've only done very few baby classes in my time, so I don't really work with babies. I don't like babies really, sorry. I'm starting to like babies now, but I prefer 3-year-olds upwards. But basically, any time for games, like, it's the thing with kids start understanding straight away. As they say, they're sponges, they take in so many concepts. You can teach them multiple languages at the end. They'll jumble things up, but later on they basically manage to organize it and separate which language is which. So you just throw languages at them, they'll take whatever sticks, some might not, etc. Just throw whatever you want at them and they'll take it in. So with games, you can, 1-year-olds aren't really going to understand concept of games, but it doesn't hurt to introduce them to things like that, like the wooden pieces. They're going to play with them, they're going to visualize them, they're going to feel them with their mouth and that. Not the nicest thing, you've got to clean those pieces. But for the baby, it's great. I mean, it's adapting something. It's something that they're going to basically take in, they're going to start to understand the touch and feel and, the shape, etc. Okay? And the second part of your question, sorry?
Oh, with when they stop putting them, but you said you don't do like by 3, they're probably not putting things in their mouth, right?
Yeah, normally before, I think before 2, really. Like once they're 2, they shouldn't be putting stuff in their mouth, really.
Okay.
Because by 2, they're crawling around, they're basically using their hands and that to touch things. They're more worried about using gross motor skills rather than fine motor skills, I guess, because they already do the gross movement.
Right, like you said earlier, the tongue has so much sensation, so it's understandable that at first they're using that to explore their world.
Yeah.
But then it's kind of scary too, because children putting game pieces in their mouth is a very terrifying thought.
Yeah.
But, I appreciate you.
I wouldn't use like these small game pieces in animals, ones they put in the
Pretty big
mouth.
size.
Yeah. Maybe the fruit in that maybe is okay, but I'd watch it. But you can just get other toys for them. You have other fruit pieces which are less likely to go down the throat or something. Yeah.
Something quite substantial in size, probably.
Yeah.
But you can use the same concept for the game.
Yeah.
Thank
I
you.
mean, that's the thing. You can go buy some toys and big toys and then use it the same thing. I mean, if you wanted to, a 2-year-old who's starting to visualize things, you can have flashcards out and they can just go to that toy and etc. Things like that. Babies, I wouldn't focus on trying to teach them. I just let them run riot with whatever you have. Just get them touching and adapting their lifestyle to it, I guess. Yeah.
Oh, that makes sense. So like around 3 is when you start introducing them to more game concepts, I guess?
Yeah, you want to keep it basic, 2, because a lot of people don't think 2-year-olds would understand game concept. But from this game, the first game I showed was for 2-year-olds and that.
2-year-olds are playing.
Yeah, it's very simple, really easy. Even though they quite often they don't still understand them. You got to roll the dice, and things like that, and end up just grabbing pieces and that. But that's okay. You don't need to force them to sort of roll the dice and that. Just get them around the game, and when they get a bit older, 10 towards 3, or they have to understand rolling the dice, they'll start doing that. And like I said, then they start using the game for what it is. Then you can advance the game, etc.
Change concepts around.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, sir. I appreciate your response.
No problem. I'm sorry.
Sorry if I missed it, because I did remember something about my talk. But what's the context? Where do you teach them? Is it a school? And is there some other beyond the game? Do you want to achieve some kind of pedagogical goal beyond that? When you usually teach in the schools, you want to do something with it. You want to teach them English, teach them something through the game, or just the game is the end goal?
Okay. Well, no, advancing the learning is the end goal, basically. You know, you want to progress the learning. I say I don't have to use English. I quite often do because I like enjoying. I quite don't always teach my students English. I teach them problem solving, and they're sort of more able to adapt to solving. So if I'm able to speak in English, something they don't understand, they never used before, they quickly learn to adapt and sort of work out what I mean and go from there basically. And then they.
Elementary school.
Sorry.
It's elementary school.
Most of my kids are the kindergarten and lower and upper elementary school. So yeah, grades 1 to 6 basically. Sometimes junior high school students.
But in your context, it's in the context of teaching English, right?
Yes, and that, yeah.
Okay.
But I don't, like I said, for this I try more to teach them to learn games. Of course I'm doing it to motivate their English, of course get them speaking more English. But I don't always focus on that, I just focus on them understanding the game, which I do in English, so they're just learning English, they have to understand what I'm trying to say in English, etc. But I don't focus on them learning English, I just use the English, they start to adapt to it, they're more focused on the game and the rules. Once they've learnt the rules, that's when you mainly focus on the English. You use English to teach them the rules, and then you want them to use in English after they sort of learn the rules. If you bring too much in at once, then they sort of, you're going to focus on the English or you focus on the game, it will be kind of difficult. So I don't teach them a game in Japanese, I teach them in English, and generally I teach my students to problem solve more, and they start to work it out, like they start to understand, and then they learn the rules, they start to understand the game. If they get things wrong, that's fine, don't have to be, you know, and rules dictator, you just need to get them understanding the game, and then you adapt, like I said, you bring them the rules so they understand, and you can adapt the rules later. So, sorry, your question was like again, so I announced a bit more, sorry?
No, yeah, that's it's like I didn't quite understand where you do it. So if it's school, it would be probably to teach something beyond the game. So you just answered that, but
yeah,
because I couldn't understand where you're doing it. What's the context?
Okay.
What kind of kids are they? Are they like
so
coming to study games, or they just study English? Or that's what I'm.
Yeah. So the idea is I teach is like public halls and community centres and that. But basically, I'm more sort of focused on, like I said, in this case, teaching them games rather than teaching them English. But of course, in my classes, the goal is to teach them English. I just use games to do it and try to modify the games so it's easier for them to do. But yeah, I quite often teach in community centres and that. So yeah.
I have a question.
The ugly one at the back, sorry.
Is it okay? Yeah. You teach the rules and the concepts of the game. When do children or kids like learn or know or acquire the skills to like bend the rules or cheat?
Yes.
Oh, we're already done.
Okay. Okay, this is kind of interesting. I don't think it has such an age limit, really. It's I think it's more. I think the more kids understand English, the more they're likely to cheat. Actually, that's what I sort of find. The better my students are in English, the more likely they're sort of cheat. I find, yeah. I'm not saying they cheat in English, but the ones that sort of understand English more take because the games are quite often written in English, the rules are English, they'll try and find a loophole quite often. There's ones that seem to be better in English, actually, yeah. A little bit older ones can be, the more mischievous ones. The mischievous ones I find, the ones that, let's go back to this, like, I quite often prefer teaching girls because they're more polite, they're more mild-mannered, they're really easy to teach, and they're normally the best students. But quite often I find the more disruptive ones tend to be boys, not always, but the ones that are more disruptive seem to be the smarter ones. And they seem to be the ones that adapt to English so much quicker and adapt to games really quickly too. And they're the ones that seem to adapt to cheating a bit.
But it's creative, right?
I don't hold them back from it because, I like using a lot of social deduction games or getting them to basically to lie and that to each other and that. Especially Japanese children because they can be too truthful, can be too polite, and I think sometimes you need to learn to think in a different concept, a different way. And so I'm trying to teach them not to lie, not to be bad, but just to think in a different way. And quite often that's quite good to do with lying and social deduction and that. I make some quite simple games up to use in my classes with cards and that. One I have made up is basically like any social deduction game. You're trying to find out who did it. I've got a card, a murder card, like a scary like murder or something like that. For younger people, I just bring in a different concept, which is the father. So it's in a school setting, you have a history teacher, geography teacher, so you got your subjects, etc. You got the school nurse, you got the cafeteria lady, things like that. So they bring in different occupations. And you got the school bully, you got the father, and you got to find out who farted basically. And it's kind of more amusing, not so scary for them. And as I'm trying to ask each other different questions to find out if they can see if someone's lying, who has a good poker face, etc. And of course, you bring in different concepts like the school bully. The school bully basically is, wants to be caught, like, trying. I don't know, so this is a joker. I've got the school joker who wants to be caught. So he's trying to be caught instead of the father. So the father's trying to get the school joker to be caught. Or, try not to be caught, but the school joker wants to be caught and will win if he's caught. So you bring in different concepts like that. I had the school bully and a few other things like that. I had the fireman. Sometimes you gotta have a fireman on site and things like that, security guard. But yeah, so basically I try and keep it very simple, not like games like Werewolf, etc., which I'm a bit more advanced than that, but I'm not gonna bring that in except for the older kids. So I keep the concept very easy for younger kids, like, try not to be caught. And of course some of the kids, well, they don't want to be the father and the father one, and they might end up crying. But of course sometimes I bring the mothers into it too, and the mothers, of course, and the father, the kids will be laughing at mum. so yeah, a lot of people, with kids, they tend to avoid kids crying. They think it's a bad thing. I don't think it's a bad thing. Kids are going to cry, they get sad, they get grumpy, they get angry. I use that in class. And someone's sad, okay. You don't focus on the kid who's sad though. You mention the sad to the rest of the class, so they understand the concept, and then you move on. The kid gets happy later on. If you focus on the kid who's sad, they're going to keep being sad, or they're going to get angry or something like that. You don't want that. You don't want that negativity, but you can turn that negativity into a positive thing. So basically, such and such is sad, okay, but let's continue the game. I'll be, the father or something like that, so you're trying to change it up. You're trying to make them laugh. So I'll be the father, give that to me. I'm not the father. No, all of a sudden the crying kid's going, you're the father. And like, no. And they forget to be sad. So, I quite often don't get scared if they're going to be crying or scared. When Halloween, I go to Hoi Korean for 1-2-year-old kids, 1 to 6 years old. Sorry, I'll be finished soon, but I'll put my scary masks on, and the kids will be crying. Like, you've got 1 and 2-year-olds who are crying, they've been traumatized pretty much, and the 5 or 6-year-olds might be a bit scared. And then I'll put the cute mask on, and all the 5 or 6-year-olds are grabbing the scary mask and realise it's not that scary. And then they're scaring the poor little kids, the baby 1s and 2-year-olds. And then you got to put them away so they don't go too far and traumatise the kids for life. But yes. That's basically, kids are crazy.
All right, well, yeah.